Okay, so today we have the 79 Trans Am again. I know we have a first video on it. It's more of a general overview of this thing. Today we're going to do a more in-depth kind of overview of the engine and trans combo in it and the trials and tribulations of what we've gone through with it. So it had a 403 originally in it from factory. We kind of threw the idea around and putting a 5.3 in it or a 6.0 or even LS swapping it to begin with. But my dad wanted to keep the shaker as because that's kind of the iconic theme of these cars is to keep the shaker. And normally when people LS swap them, or at least, at the time, this is like 2014, 2015 era, 2016, they would just glue the shaker to the hood. So every time you pop the hood of the car show, the shaker just stays glued to the hood, and he's having a plastic intake like the newer styles. So we weren't really about that. And, these older cars with the older engines, they kind of have more character in them. So we decided to build a 403, even though it's not a really good platform to build because of the 2-bolt mains, and they don't like to hold power plus or over 450, 500 horsepower. The mains tend to crack on them unless you put a girdle, Mondale Performance girdle on them. But we didn't want to go that route because we weren't going to push this car to be a drag car. It was just going to be a daily driving car. So we pulled the original engine. Believe it or not, had 3 wiped cam lobes. It still ran. It had no power. It was still do a burnout though, but it was cool. It was tired. So when we pulled it out, we stripped it all down, pulled the pistons out, and pulled cam out. We sent the block to a local machinist in the Aldine area, which that in itself turned out to be a fun ordeal there, because before him, we contacted 2 or 3 machine shops across the Houston area, even Conroe, and none of them wanted to deal with the 403 because of how, I guess, no one builds them. So we contacted the guy that supposedly knew about him, and he kind of did. He had the engine for what, like 6 months?
Yeah.
Or no, it may have been like 7 months or 8 months.
Yeah.
I don't know. But in the meantime, I had ordered a bunch of parts for it, and the guy approached us with trying to put the 455 top end package on it, keep the base of 403, but the top end of 455. And we decided to do that. We for the piston choice, we went with Keith Black's the 24,000ths pop-up pistons, or the race pistons. They give it compression, and those are hyper-eutectic pistons, but they're more of like they're not just like your cheap sealed powered pistons. They're actually pretty good. We went with those, and they have that black coating on top of the piston in case you want to spray nitrous or whatever with it. For the rods, we went with Eagles rods. They're standard, forged rod combo. Nothing crazy, but definitely hold up to at least 600 horsepower, a little more. And those Eagle rods have ARP 2000 rod bolts in them. For the heads, we went with ProComp's aluminum heads, 455 aluminum heads. And because we're changing the head package on it, we had to change the intake manifold because the original intake manifold would fit a 403. And although those engines, dimensionally outside, they're the same, the motor mounts are the same, the bracketry is the same, and all that, the head and intake and all that combo up top does nothing interchanges with them except the distributor, because that's a block thing. So for the intake, we went with a Edelbrock RPM Performer intake, which at the time we thought were supposedly, on the internet you read a bunch of things and it's supposed to work, but the intake was everything was supposed to fit correctly for the shaker as far as the shaker went, and that's kind of the whole point of sticking with this engine, was to make the shaker work. Well, when we put the Edelbrock intake on there, it was the lowest intake we could find on the market, because whenever you put the carburetor on, you have the intake plenum that either raises or lowers where the carburetor setting is. So we went with the Edelbrock one because we thought it would work. And when we had everything set in here, we went to shut the hood, and of course the shaker is like 2 inches rammed into the hood. We couldn't even close the hood. And at that point, it had been a year or so since we had yanked it out, machine shop issues, parts issues, ordering, all that. And the shaker still hit. So, but now we had invested almost $5,000 within parts and machining into this new engine. We had to make it work. So we went with a Butler Performance. You can zoom in on this little plate right here. It's a Butler Performance shaker, kind of not a relocation kit. It's more of an adapter kit. As you can tell, it comes with this billet base with their own unique cone filter there. And what it does, it essentially lowers the mounting of the shaker. So it just raises the cone up and lowers it so you can keep your original shaker. And as with many things nowadays too, that required additional machining on our end, machining being with a grinder wheel, if you can zoom back here. Because these cars came with HEI distributors, you would think that they would work. But as you can tell where my finger is over there, we had to cut it. So,
like I said before,
yep.
People build this stuff. They charge good money for these parts.
Yeah, it was $500 just for this base
And,
and
and
the
the
air
sad
filter.
part about it is, and I know some of you out there are like, well, you got to modify it. Yeah, but when you're spending that kind of money, I shouldn't have to modify anything. When I buy something, it should bolt right up. If it's for the engine, for the car, then guess what? It needs to fit the first time. I bought a set of headers for it, and that was on me because obviously I bought them for the 403. Well, ended up throwing $500 headers away, literally, in the trash.
Because the
Guess what? I can't even sell them because nobody even runs 403s anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't even a choice of whether I wanted to or not. I just literally threw them in the trash.
And the main reason being the 403 headers didn't work for the Trans Am chassis. The 455 heads are kicked out more, as you would imagine. They're instead of being like this, they're more kicked out, and that caused fitment issues with the steering shaft and just the frame and everything. So we had to order a set of 455 headers for it, and yeah, they fit, but to put them in takes 2 hours of every bit of two people. And my dad can tell you, we've had the headers off probably 4 or 5 times now. And not only do they not seal great like all headers do, and because the fabulous design of Oldsmobile's 5 or 6 bolts holding on the entire header together or onto the head, um, they create a ton of heat for what they are. And looking back at it, we would have went with manifolds, but now we're trying to figure out if we want to approach that setup or just keep these original, the headers. The the whole 455 top end package on these cars, if you do the conversion, you're going to run into the shaker fitment issue, like I said, and even you have to modify that. Then we ran into the issue of the valve covers because when we put this motor together, it's still the flat tappet cam. I'm sorry, the camshaft package, I forgot to mention, was a W31. It's a Mondello MW31 cam. If you Google that, you can look up the specs, or I can put it in the description. Um, then when we did that, it's still flat tappet, but we put roller rockers on it up top to kind of just for better longevity. And when we put the roller rocker setup on it, we ended up having to buy taller valve covers to clear the roller rockers. As you can tell, these fabricated covers over here.
And what happened then, dude?
No, and they don't seal. I mean, you can put them on a million times, and they love to leak on you. And they have this wonderful Allen head design, and even if you put regular hex head bolts in there, it doesn't look right. It looks like you're putting the wrong stuff on there. And so it was fun getting these to seal. But then when you put this on in here, your original booster has to disappear because now you run into fitment issues with the booster. So that's why we have this Willwood setup here. And we have to run this extremely small, like 9 or 8 inch diaphragm booster. And because now we do that, and coupled with the cam in this car, we have almost zero brakes. So I mean, they work, but now we're gonna have in the future we're gonna put a vacuum assisted setup on it with probably an electric motor setup or something.
Mm-hmm.
So we ran into fitment issues here, shaker, ran into fitment issues obviously with the headers because now you have to switch over to 455 stuff. And I think the bracketry that was the same as far as the head setup on that.
Mm-hmm.
The distributor was good, and I think that was it as far as like the conversion setup.
Right. And then, okay, so going back to the original reason that I wanted to keep the motor was really for the shaker. And I know it, to some people, it may not be important, but to me it is. I mean, when this thing's running, the shaker moves.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it literally
Tries to rock outside the
it
car.
tries to rock outside the hood because when you stomp it, I mean, it really torques over really good. And the motor runs great. I mean, don't get me wrong. But now looking back at it now, these motors, they were good and they have a lot of torque. I mean, you can burn the tires off of it. It's not a big deal. But if you wanted to scoot and get, you know, like you can get the same thing out of a small block LS
Or even at 350
or even
or.
a small block old 383
Mm-hmm.
or a 355 or something that, you know, something slightly bored over 350. Looking back at it now, it would have been a lot cheaper and a lot easier. And I still ended up modifying, like I said, the shaker mount and everything. Plus, I took the old
Oh, the
AC
AC
out. Yeah,
box.
I
Yeah,
took the
that's
AC
another thing.
box
That's
out
yep.
because the right side valve cover was, you know, damn near, you know, crammed up against
It
the
was.
AC box, and that was a concern. Every time the motor would rock, it was hitting the box. So I took that out of there, which of course, you know, I wanted to upgrade the air, and I am going to upgrade the AC on it, put the vintage air in it and stuff. But now here's the deal: if I keep this motor and I buy the vintage air is almost $2,000 for this car. If I put vintage air in this car and then I decide, guess what, I don't like the motor, well now I'm stuck with a $2,000 system basically because the brackets and stuff ain't gonna work. The compressor more than likely not gonna work. The AC lines will have to be completely redone. So basically, the only thing I would be able to keep is be the inside unit, which I mean that's some savings, but bottom line is here I go again having to redo stuff. And that's the main thing I guess when you're building a car, and I've learned this the hard way many a time. You think I'd have learned by now. You need to really decide what motor you're going to run and what motor you're going to keep no matter what you go through, no matter what you face, what issues you run into or whatever. So now here I'm at this road now. Do I keep this engine or do I do what I was going to do to start with, you know, put a LS 60 or whatever, 62 or whatever I might run across, or I have a 454 in storage.
It's Gen 6, I think, or
It's a
Gen
Gen
5.
6 or a Gen 5
The roller.
454. It's the roller 454 that we
Mm-hmm.
have, you know, and I've always wanted to build a blower motor, whether it's a small block or a big block.
With that
But
871 or a
yeah,
1071 blower.
but if we're going to do a blower at this point, then you kind of ask yourself, well, shoot, you have a 454. What better than a big block with a blower?
Mm-hmm.
The car is not a daily anymore anyway. I just rarely use it. You know, and one of the reasons why, you know, in Texas, it's unbearable. You know, you don't need a sauna, just sit in your car. You know, if you don't have AC, if you want to lose weight, which I need to, I probably need to sit in this car at least two or three times a week.
Huh.
But going back to the problem, I think, and I'm really considering just putting a 454 and just putting a BDS blower system on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That might be something that I don't know if you guys want to comment or give me any ideas or suggestions. This motor runs great. I mean, don't get me wrong, it does. It gets the car up and going down the road, but I don't know. It just seems like for all the trouble I went through and all the money I spent on it, I could have had another power plant in this thing and probably done better.
Yep.
Also, I got to do. I want to do the dash. I need to redo the dash on it. The car's pretty clean. It really is. I mean, it's all original. The dash does have a little crack up here on the top, right there. Other than that, it's pretty good.
We already have the dash pad.
And I have a dash pad for it, a brand
Mhm.
new dash pad that I've had for probably a year and a half. But it's just getting to it. You know, as you can see, the rest of the car is. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Everything's pretty good. I mean, for the year that it is. I don't know. You know, it's been an ongoing project. And it seems like you really never finish them unless you're just dead set on what you want. But me, I'm always just trying to figure out how to make them better, faster.
And going with the roots blower, I know that they're not good for power. I mean,
Man, they
you
sound
know,
cool though.
nowadays we have Gen 6 Whipples and, you know, on new stuff on the Coyote engines and all that and make way more power. But, I mean, the big block with the 871 is still going to make north of 700, 800 easy, you know, on the right gas. But the looks factor of it is reason enough for us to. I mean, it's already got a hole cut in the hood from
Yeah.
factory, so it's kind of like why not? And now since if we pull the engine out, it's not original. So what? At that point,
What
you just
difference
stick
does it
whatever
make?
you want in there.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I don't know, guys. Y'all let us know. Um, you know, if you've hung around this long watching this video, if you could hit the like and subscribe button, and that way it can help us out, and we can make more videos. And in the future, these are just videos right now, just kind of pointing out what we're doing. In the future, we promise we'll have videos of us actually
Doing stuff.
doing the work to the cars versus us just saying we did it. We've done it all. We're the ones that do this stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we have the machine shops obviously do the machine work,
But
but
we
we're the ones
assemble
that
everything.
actually build them. We're the ones that
Mm-hmm.
actually come up with the ideas. We're the ones that actually put them together. So we will promise in the future start actually doing the work and showing y'all step by step. And what I am going to do, I'm going to be truthful. A lot of these guys on YouTube, they put on their, how they just magically do things and everything fits perfectly, nothing goes wrong, everything is exactly how it's written, and people will just want to post that stuff. Me, I keep it real. If I tell you it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. And if you have to start chopping and modifying and welding stuff, whenever you order a part, if I order headers for a 79 Trans Am, guess what? When I go to bolt them up, they need to bolt up.
Not me
I
dinging
shouldn't
on
have to
them,
beat on them with a
or
sledgehammer.
cut that. I think on this one we actually had to
Yeah,
cut a little piece of the bell housing off.
or actually, make the holes bigger, or get a torch and bend it. I don't need to do all that. I'm spending $500-600 on headers. They need to bolt up. Period. And if you manufacturers can't get it right, well, y'all need to stop selling this stuff. But enough of that. Yeah, if you could like and subscribe, and we'll make better videos. Until next time, we're signing off.